Hey guys, we are live today with Chad Smith here from Keller Williams in Arlington. We are here for our next episode of Power Hour with Power Players, and we wanted to bring him here to you guys so that you can learn about his experience with growing a team and being an individual agent. Before we get started with everything, let us know in the comments below if you're watching this live or if you're watching this as a recording. So if it's live, put that L. If it's a recording, put an R. And if you guys want more videos like this and you want to see our past guests and our future guests, you can go to tjhtpowerhour.com and that'll take you directly to our Facebook group for this. So Chad, let's go ahead and get started with you. Thank you so much for being here with Nick and I today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, why don't you start just kind of telling people a little bit about yourself and your team as of now, and then we'll really get into the nitty-gritty of everything.
Okay, the team as of now, let's see, year to date, we have sold 140 houses. We have 47 pendings. We've got about 16 agents on the team, full-time listing manager, closing manager, virtual assistant, and a couple of part-time administrative assistants. And so for the volume we're doing, pretty high agent productivity per person.
Right.
And having a good year. I think we're up about 87% in units sold from where we were a year ago.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing because I know y'all's numbers. Obviously, this isn't the first time we've talked, and y'all sold 224 in 2017, and you're at 144 with 47 pending, and we're at the halfway mark. That's fantastic.
Right.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're at now. Let's take people back because we tend to have a lot of people watching this who are individual agents who are doing this on their own, people who are brand new in the business. We may also have some other big teams out there who are wanting to know how to run this like a team, or team members wanting to know about the success you have. So let's throw it back first. Just what got you into real estate? Why'd you choose this crazy career?
Okay, so it really depends on how far back you want to go on this. What I always ask people is, do you want the Keller Williams answer or do you want the whole thing?
Well, we've got an hour, so I don't know. I like the whole. I'll leave that up to you. How much you want to share?
Okay. All right. So really, I had no business background. I had never thought about business. My teenage years, it was about playing guitar. So I had dreams of playing guitar my entire life. My heroes were guitar players. That was it. It was music. And so I also played sports. I played soccer, had a soccer scholarship, and walked away from my scholarship after my freshman year and told the coach I was going to be a rock star. So, it was no thought of the future. It was just, I just went for it. So fast forward a year and a half later, we were signed to a local label. We got the opportunity to be flown out to LA and play in front of all the major record labels and had our shot. And it didn't happen. And I had absolutely no life skills whatsoever. And so I didn't really know how to respond to that adversity. And so by the time I was 25, I had completely hit the wall. Just complete hopelessness, didn't know what to do. I had struggled with drugs and alcohol and just kind of cried out for help. So that was everything up to 25 years old. A lot of drive, completely misdirected, didn't know what to do, and cried out for help. And that next morning, my uncle called me, and he lives in Lexington, Kentucky, and he retired at the age of 44 through real estate. And he called me, said, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, "Terrible. How are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm about to retire. We've got 75 miles of single track motorcycle trail and we're having fun down here. Why don't you come hang out with us for a while?" So I moved to Kentucky and lived with my uncle for about 3 months. During that time, he gave me a couple of books. He gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He gave me some different books to read. And so when I moved back to Texas, I knew I wanted to change. I knew I wanted to start over. I just didn't know how. And so I saved up some money and got my real estate license in 2004. I did not even know what a title company was. So I lived in an apartment. I had never made more than $22,000 in a year, but I was going to get into real estate and figure this thing out. And I still didn't know. I knew that I was supposed to have a positive mental attitude. I just didn't know how to keep it. I didn't know. As soon as challenges came, I would just crumble. And about 2 or 3 weeks after getting my real estate license, one of the agents there gave me a CD of his pastor, Dr. Gene Lingerfeld. And he gave me the CD, and it was called The Home Run Man. And I got that CD and was driving over to my girlfriend's apartment at the time. And it was the first time I'd ever heard anything like it, where it was like biblical strength. It was the opposite of what manhood looks like in the movies and media. Mm-hmm. And it was just this model to become someone that your wife would be proud of, and that your kids would be proud of, and your grandchildren will be proud of. And that was a magnet to all good things. And I pulled over on the side of the road and just kind of like bawled my eyes out, because I finally had this model that I was looking for. So I drove over to my girlfriend at the time's house, and I popped the CD in her CD player, and she's like, "What's this?" "It's a church." She's like, What kind of church?" "I don't know." And so we sat there and listened to it. And after about 10 minutes, I thought she was going to go over there and turn it off. And she walked over to the little CD player and turned up the volume. And so right there at the beginning of my real estate career, I got my first model. And so I spent 2004 through 2007, real estate was pretty much terrible. I mean, I struggled. However, I was learning how to eliminate all these bad habits, these destructive habits that I had built up over those first 25 years. And I made more difficult changes right there in those first 3 years of real estate, that by the time my first real estate mentor showed up on the scene, and I went to that first KW, it was Camp 443, nowadays like Ignite, and Smokey Garrett stood up in the class and said, "Keller Williams changed my life. If you do what we teach in these classes, you cannot fail." When he said that, I thought, well, I believe him, because he's valid. He has results. He sold 200 homes a year. So copying this model in real estate's got to be easier than eradicating all these terrible habits and all these destructive thought patterns I'd had and all these things I did. And so I just took him at his word, and I took off running right there as the recession hit. And that was really actually, you could kind of say when my real estate career began, was as the meltdown hit.
How interesting. When everyone else is like running out of the business, you're really starting to take off.
Well, my first daughter was born April 21st of 2008. So there I was, 3.5, 4 years into the business, and I had learned some things. I had figured out how to help investors buy foreclosures. That was about the extent of it. However, my first daughter was born, and it was always in my heart that my wife would be able to be there to do the most important job for my daughters. Well, my children at the time, turns out they were 4 daughters in a row. And so I knew I either had to become great or go start over again and find something new to do. And I chose to become great.
I love that, because I know Nick and I talk about this all the time, but what I hear in that is the grit that you had to get through and to push through when things were getting really bad, and that it wasn't this easy career, easy success and easy money like everyone thinks that I think real estate is, and decided to push through, which then led you to have more success than you've ever had. Because what I did learn about you that I didn't already know from our interactions was that you were voted or recognized as one of the top producing single agents in 2009.
Yes. So I think that's a big part of the success that we've had on the team.
Chad real quick. See if we can get him back.
You got me? You got me?
1 second. Of course, we're going to have some tech glitches.
I can hear you, Chad. Elizabeth, can you hear him?
I cannot. So you go ahead and take over, Nick.
So Chad, yeah. So tell me about that. So you were, voted the hardest working real estate agent, correct?
Yes. So the way all this played out for me is that first CD I got from my pastor, one of the big things that he repeats in there is that in the end, your environment will control you. So you have to control your environment. Well, I was so new at all of this, those first 3 years, I just kept my mouth shut and my head down. And you got to remember Keller Williams Arlington in 2004, 5, 6, and 7 had about 65 agents in it. Like we were basically the laughing stock of North Texas Keller Williams offices.
Right.
And so I didn't really even go up there very much. And when I did, I just kept my mouth shut. And so I think one of the Christmas parties, they nominated me quietest realtor because I'm an all or nothing guy. I was completely unplugged. I had nothing to do with that market center. And then when the mentor showed up, when Smokey showed up, I went all in. So I went from being the quietest realtor to nominated the hardest working 3 years in a row, and then became the #1 individual agent of the year, and then the #1 two-person team of the year a couple times in a row, and now we're the #1 team in the entire market center.
So walk us through what is the hardest, individual real estate agent? What does that look like back then? And then we'll walk it up all the way through today.
Okay, so those first couple of years, if my wife wasn't such a diligent person and such a hard worker, I wouldn't have made it. So she was working full time and I was trying to figure it out, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't going to class. The classes weren't real because there was no one there that was actually accomplishing the results, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so I took a job at flooring companies. I put out We Buy Houses signs for investors. I coached soccer. I drove forklifts at night. I did everything that I could. Just at that point, it was just trying to figure out how to survive. Then when I plugged into the training, we're getting there now. We've got a sphere of influence. It's probably 25% of our business now. But there in 08, 09, when I became the individual agent of the year, it was all expired and for sale by owner because there was basically almost no one in my life from my past life that could buy a house.
Right.
I think I had 37 people in my database in 2008. And so I had to go meet new people and show them that I had studied the market, that I understood the market, that I've been blessed with this strategic type mindset so I could look at a house and show them maybe what the last agent didn't do and then figure out what needed to actually happen in order to get the home sold. And I found my strength there as an individual agent. And so it was expired listing for sale by owner. It was hand dialing. It was printing the MLS, going to whitepages.com, looking up all the phone numbers, then hand dialing the numbers. That's how it started.
And when did so at that point, when you started doing that, what was, how much volume transactions, what did that look like? And then, when did you feel that you needed to bring on people to start the team? Okay.
So in 2009, the individual agent of the year, I think that was probably like 44 transactions, right? This is 2009 and the average sales price in Arlington was probably 140,000. So the numbers weren't all that impressive, but you got to remember the market was tanking like a rock. It dropped 40% there.
Yeah.
So I realized shortly after that I was going to need to understand leadership and build a team, because when you're standing there in January holding the #1 individual agent of the year award and you're thinking, where did the money go? That's when you realize that no one in this business succeeds alone, and that six figures being something big is just a myth, and that you're exhausted and all those things. So from that point, I joined the Agent Leadership Council in Arlington. I served on it 8 years in a row, and just went to school on leadership. I went to Recruit Select. Now it's called Career Visioning. I've been to it 12 times. And the biggest takeaways that I took from that time of learning, was that I had to create a vision for something that was so big that all the people that came to help us build the business could all get what they wanted, that they would never have to leave. And then the other thing is that career visioning is about looking for people that will change your life. And if you settle for someone that's not going to change your life, then you've missed the whole 2-day process.
Right.
I'm looking for someone that there's just something inside of them that has always had this spirit of excellence. And that I made my stand on really 2 people to get started, and then others as it came. And that's how we got going. It was 2012. Mandy Mahoney came on board. Brooks Summer came on board. Others came and helped. And then Jason Breitenstein came in 2013, and we built from there.
So was Mandy your first true hire? And was she an agent? Was she an assistant? What was that first? What was that first hire?
Okay, she was the first hire that stuck.
Okay.
So there have been many folks that have come and gone, and for different reasons. I think at first she was hired originally as admin. And as we went through that process, we found out through her behavioral assessments and those things that even though she had been an admin for 13 years, that's not what she wanted to do, and that's not how she was wired. And so I didn't put her on that seat on the bus. The process takes a while. I had admin before that, a couple of buyer's agents before that. But when you go to these classes and they tell you to hire talent, well, number one, I don't naturally recognize administrative talent because I'm horrible at it. So I didn't know what that really looked like. I mean, back in the day before it was all paperless transactions, I would hand in my files to the front desk person so that they could highlight all of it to tell me all the stuff I didn't fill out in it. Like that was about my level of admin work. And so it took me some time to figure that out, but going through those trainings helped. So Mandy came on board, and for 90 days, she did admin work, and then I basically helped her get started as a buyer's agent. And then 90 days later, we hired Brooks Summer as the administrative person, and the 3 of us went from that 45 transactions up to about 90. And then Jason came on board, and that's how we moved up into the hundreds of transactions per year and on from there.
So, I mean, and that sounds great, right? So, I'm sure that wasn't just that easy process of, you brought those people on and then it just skyrocketed up. So tell me about your struggles you had with growing the team, whether that's getting them in, getting your agents in production, the lead gen structure. What was your struggle then? And what is your struggle today? What keeps you up at night?
Nothing keeps me up at night. I sleep peacefully. That's that answer.
Good.
But that has to do more with what I've learned from my church than it has from what I've learned at KW. And so there's always a challenge. There's always an opportunity in real estate. And none of this happened fast. I'm kind of the gradually then suddenly. It's all, I've always wanted it to go faster, but the more experience I've accumulated, the more I realize that the only thing I can do is the next right thing. And so I think based on your question, what folks are looking at is I made my stand on the character of 2 or 3 people. And then I was willing to spend as much time as it took with them to get them to the point where they moved into mastery. So, Brooks and Jason have both been 6-figure earners for 2+ years now, and they're going to be up in the $200,000 and $300,000 mark this year. And everybody that knows us kind of in this part of town, they all want a Brooks and a Jason on their team. But Brooks has been with me since 2012, and Jason's been with me since 2013. And since day one, I was willing to pour myself into them and make my stand on them and invest in them so that they could grow into who they are now. And now my goal is to continue to find opportunities and create opportunities for them so that we can continue to go somewhere together.
And what does your team's day-to-day operation look like? And then what does Chad Smith's day-to-day look like?
Okay, so this is probably a big part of why we're doing well now is the total commitment on the people that are on the team now. This took a long time to get here. It was not magic. So many people rebelled against this. It's unreal. However, every single Monday through Friday, whether I'm here or not, and I'm here almost every day, at 8:30 sharp, like the minute it hits 8:30, we start script practice. So everybody's in this building before that starts. And at 8:30, it goes boom, and we start script practice. And Brooks, Jason, and I are sitting by the dry erase board. And as the script practice is going, we're taking notes and we're giving them real fierce feedback, the positive feedback, and then the reality so that they can get better. We do 2 of those, and then we immediately go into gratitudes. And people that are around me, I'm not really, I don't know what the word is. I'm not super emotional, but gratitude is massive because, like I said a minute ago, and you guys know it, everyone that's in real estate knows it, there's always fires and challenges and opportunities. And so we take the time to go through gratitudes because you get what you focus on. And if we're constantly training ourselves to focus on what we do have, then it's easier to just kind of isolate and deal with the things that we need to fix, but still realizing what we've got that works, what we've got that we can be grateful for. And I think that culture that we've created has really played a big part in this. At 9:15 sharp, we break, and then everybody goes and everyone gets on the phone. And the standards for the team is 2 hours of lead generation on the dialer, clear your follow-up every day. So every person that we said we would follow up with at that time, we do what we said we were going to do. And we operate with integrity, and we follow up with everyone we said we were going to follow up with. And that's what the morning looks like.
And before we get into what your day-to-day looks like, what is the metric? So they're doing 2 hours of lead generation, right? At 9:15 sharp. What is that metric of, dials? I know, when we've met in the past, you've shown me that, the awesome PowerPoint and you're tracking everything. You're a tracking machine. Kind of break us down on what you're tracking. What are you holding your team accountable for? And that way we can give value back to agents out there.
Okay, so we use CTE. So if you're a Keller Williams agent, you know what that is. And we also use Mojo Dialer. It depends. I'll give you part of the answer. Part of the answer is it depends on where the agent is. We track dial time. We track talk time. We track appointments set, appointments held, appointments or listings or buyers taken. Those are the key things that we track. And then based on where the agent is in their progression on becoming or moving into mastery, that's what we choose to focus on. For example, if someone's got a mental block and they're having a difficult time picking up the phone, then that's what we coach to. We have agents who will get on the phone and just no appointments ever get set. So then we coach to that. We have agents who get on the phone, they set a ton of appointments, but their gap is identifying real motivation. So we coach to that. We have agents that get all of that down, they go on appointments, but they're not winning in their presentations. So we coach to that. And so it's moving them through that progression so that eventually they can get to the point where there's just nothing that they can't do in real estate.
Perfect. And then, if you're a brand new agent, if we were to say, Chad, you're getting back into it, knowing what you know today, what are the 3 main metrics you would track right off the bat? I mean, right now you're coaching those agents based on what their issues are, whether they have call reluctance or if they're making a ton of calls and not setting appointments. But if you're brand new, what 3 main metrics would you advise new agents to really start measuring?
So anytime I'm talking at KW Arlington, I'll go ahead and say, I think you have to get on the phones, because the argument is going to be, well, I don't like that whole phone call thing, so I door knock. I bet you're not door knocking in the end of June, beginning of July, every single day of the week in Texas. Something tells me you're probably not doing that right now. Or, I do open houses. Are you doing enough open houses to hit your goal? And then if you do door knock, or if you do social media, or if you do open houses, whatever that is, how do you set an appointment with these people? How do you follow up with them? It's the phones. And so I think you start with your sphere of influence. and you call them and you offer, you let them know you're in the business, and then you stay in touch with them and you build those relationships. And then it's your sphere of influence. Then you've got to at least get two more legs to the stool. You want to have 3 to 5 legs to the stool, 3 to 5 different sources of lead gen. And I think it starts with prospecting. I mean, that's what the model says. If you're just going to sit there and wait around to be a lead receiver, I think it's getting more and more difficult because the cost of leads is going up and the big teams are becoming better and better at it. And so as a new agent, I think it would probably be very difficult to go compete by buying Zillow leads or Realtor.com leads or anything like that. I think you've got to go out there and you got to meet people and put them in some sort of a database and follow up with them.
Perfect. And if you're watching this live, go ahead and type L for watching this video live. If you're watching the replay, type R. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll be sure to try to get those over to Chad. If not, during the replay, we'll give his information out. Chad, what does your day-to-day look like today?
Okay, so I'm all in. I'm still here. I think I've observed that a potential mistake people can make is going in and you get to level 6 or level 7 or something like that. And then at that point, you're playing golf all the time, or, you're just kind of not in, you go into cruise control or something like that. I'm all in. I absolutely love doing what I'm doing. I love seeing the agents on the team grow. I love sitting there in the trenches and helping them learn how to break through barriers, because once you learn how to break through a plateau, you can go to, then you can repeat the principle. You can start to move faster through those things. So I'm there in the morning from 8:30 to 9:15, all in, giving everything I've got to help them there. I'm here all morning. I coach. I have multiple people that I'm being coached by. So there are several times each week where I'm talking to people that I'm learning from that are ahead of me, because my job as the leader is speed of the leader, speed of the pack. I've got to stay ahead. I've got to be able to see the next steps. I've got to find out what's working best for the people that are selling 2, 3, 4 times as many homes as we are. And so I'm working on the biggest things that I can find that will move the business forward, so that I always have answers to the next steps. And then I'm here just to help with the small dominoes that each agent needs to knock over. I'm here for Brooks and Jason, who are actually leaders within the team. I'm just all in, and especially from here till noon. And then right now in the afternoons, I'm spending more time. Last year, I think I sold 6 or 8 homes, somewhere in there. I've sold 3 this year myself. And so it's freed up the ability to start our investment company, which we're getting really active in. So I'm kind of dividing my time now. I'm dividing my energy. I'm all in to make sure that this train is growing. And the way I think and the way it's wired is this business is responsible for hundreds and hundreds of people's lives at this point, maybe even thousands at this point. So everything in my life has to grow. Everything that's connected to God has to grow by default. And so we've gone forward every single year since 2004, even if it was slow at times. I've always gone forward. And so I refuse to let this just, start to become idle just because maybe a handful of our needs are met. The business has to keep growing, and then simultaneously build this other business so that we can start to really look at things that will impact us decades down the line.
Perfect. I love it.
So it's half of the day, Chad Smith team all in, leading, coaching, training, half of the day building the second business.
And Chad, I would, getting to know you the way I have, that's one of the profound effects you've had on me is that ripple effect, right? So, if I were to say, tell me about Chad Smith, you left that impression on me about the ripple effect in this business of how, one, our agents rely on us, but our inspectors rely on us, the title companies, the mortgage, and then those people that are employed, that it can be thousands and thousands of people that, they depend on Chad Smith. They depend on the Good Home team. That's something that you really left with me, and hopefully that people listening to this will think about, because I mean, that's huge. Tell me, Chad, one question that Amanda Thomas had is, what does the coaching model look like on your team? Is it group coaching or one-on-one? How does that work?
Okay, so the answer is both. There's definitely one-on-one coaching. So that 8:30 to 9:15 is definitely group coaching, right? Everyone, it's a wonderful mastermind. I mean, if you listen to the level of the scripts and dialogues that's going on our team from 8:30 to 9:15, it's profound. My MAPS coach, Mike Perna, Mary Jo Hahn runs his 3 locations. She came down and spent a day with us, and she was kind of very impressed with that level of group coaching there. 3 times a month, we also have a noon meeting on Mondays, and I'm very, very focused so that I don't waste people's time. I don't want to just ramble. It's very, very dialed in as to what I see everyone on the team is needing at that point. I've shared that PowerPoint with you, Nick, as kind of the way we run that. And then also each agent on the team has a coach, and they have weekly one-on-ones where they go over their metrics: talk time, dial time, appointments set, appointments held, listings, buyers taken. They talk about their challenges, their victories, to help them get that individual time to know what their next steps are. So it's both.
Perfect. Love it. And Chad, before we get to another question, is, we were talking, offline about, your April and how it was a great April anyway, right? But you had, a higher projected commission amount on the books, and it turned out to be a little bit less, but still amazing. What do you do to keep your team, let's say that the team's momentum is starting to lose that steam, or you're getting into that negative mindset? What do you do as the leader to keep them, motivated and keep them pushing forward?
Okay, there's so much I could say to that. So what we talked about before the Power Hour started, I think we had $329,000 in gross commissions projected for, it was either April or somewhere right in there. I think it was April. And it ended up being 205, something like that. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the 2,205, no doubt. We don't have bad days here. and the reason I say that is we don't get overly excited when something goes great. And we definitely don't get upset when something doesn't work out. We either win or we learn, but nothing has the right to steal my joy. So what I teach I have 4 daughters, but one's only 5 months old. So my 3 that are 10, 8, and 6, something I rehearse to them constantly is we'll get up in the morning and I'll say, attitude is, and they say, a choice. And I say, God gave you the ability to choose and they say, attitude. And then I say, attitude is, and they say, everything. And then, because the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so I tell my team, the answer is we constantly talk about mindset. And so the only thing that matters is that we do the next right thing. If a deal falls out, if you were doing your job lead generating 2 hours a day and building your scripts and dialogues, anytime something falls out, if we get upset about that, we were putting our commissions ahead of our client. So what we say is the answer is more. If we do our job and we create our future every morning, and we have more than enough sellers to help and more than enough buyers to represent, then if something falls out, maybe that wasn't the best thing for our client. And the only thing to do is the next right thing. So this is just a way of thinking, a conversation that never stops, because I don't have time to have a bad day. I don't have a time for some challenge in real estate to steal my joy. And let me add this, because I think this will help. I don't even know if you and I have talked about this, but I've recently encountered kind of my next mentor, and his name is Peter J. Daniels, and he's an Australian man in his 80s. Peter J. Daniels got saved. At age 26, he was an illiterate bricklayer in Australia, and his family was 3 generations of welfare recipients. And he went to a Billy Graham meeting at age 26 and got saved and made 2 commitments. One, was to see how much money one man could give into the gospel in a lifetime. And the second one was to change the world for 300 years after he died. And he became a billionaire. He became the richest man in Australia. And so I've read his books, watched his videos, and now I'm going through his coaching programs and have had an opportunity to interact with him. And my biggest aha so far that I've gotten from him is that here's the way he described it. In America, we have the marathon, 26.2 miles. And that's a really big deal, amazing accomplishment. Australians think differently. They created their version of a marathon, and it's 500 miles. And so what Peter J. Daniels talks about a lot, it's kind of what Gary Keller says it's in terms of start with the end in mind. But what changed in my thinking is I'm 40 years old now, and I look at how far God has brought me from 2004 till now. And I've recently decided that all of my goals and all of my destiny in life is based on what can I accomplish from now until I'm 90 years old. So I now have a 50-year journey to see how much of an impact I can make by the time I'm 90. And so where I'm going with this, Nick, is if a deal falls out, how does that really ultimately affect me if my perspective is in a 50-year journey in business?
Right.
And the answer is it doesn't matter. The only thing I need to do is just solve that problem and move forward.
Absolutely. It's temporary, right? You know, what I've taken from this, and this is something that we didn't talk about before or even prep you for, but what I'm hearing from the start through even today is that in order to get to where you're wanting to go with your vision is that you found mentors. You mentioned even at the beginning, when getting in real estate, you found, Smokey Garrett was a mentor of yours, right? That helped you, get to a certain point. And even before that, in order to get in the right mindset, the CD that you and your girlfriend at the time were listening to. So what is it that you do when looking for that mentor or advice to people for that? I mean, sometimes we look for mentors just from success, and that might not be the right person to mentor us.
Okay, Nick, that's great insight, and I think you're asking the right question. For me, it's not a judgmental thing, but it is about observing fruit. And so we can be fruit inspectors. And so we're all being influenced by someone. The question is do they have what you want? And for me, going through what I went through in my teenage years with my parents divorcing and seeing the impact that had on so many people, I have never one time been willing to accomplish anything in business at the expense of my marriage or my children. And so in terms of business, you have to ask yourself, does this teacher, does this coach, does this mentor have what I want? And then my advice is it would be wise to make sure that the life behind that lines up with what you want. And then, I'm still at the same church of that CD from 2004. And I'm still part of the same Keller Williams Market Center I was when I got my license in 2004. And so another big piece of all of this is honor. I'm still learning from my pastor. I'm still grateful, and I'm still honoring the environment that helped me survive and make it through those beginning years in real estate. And when I look at the next people, when I'm looking at a mentor, even whenever I got my first MAPS coaches, Jason Abrams and then Michael Perna, I sent MAPS an email behind the application. They have a 3-page application. And then I sent an email and I said, I don't want an agent that sold 5 houses more than I did last year. I'm looking to go here, and I'm looking to accomplish this, this, and this, and I want to coach with someone that has actually done that. And so that first CD I got, Pastor Lingerfeld said, there are patterns for success and there are patterns for failure. And I'm intelligent enough to choose the pattern that will lead to my success. If I can figure out the principles that people employ to achieve success, the principles are repeatable. And it's so much. I'm very aware of what I was able to accomplish in my own strength. I mean, I was out a road at 25. And so maybe that's also why I'm so plugged in the mornings here, is because I have the opportunity to be that for other people now.
Perfect. And Chad, thank you for sharing that. First off, before I want to get into your wealth building part for the last section of this, but before, Matthew Soto had a question. Knowing what you know today, how would you structure your team if starting it today as day one? Meaning, admin, transaction coordinator, 3 to 5 agents, all at once. Knowing what you know today, and you were starting all over again, how would you build that business?
Okay. The answer to that is I would read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent several times, and I would follow that model. So your first 2 hires are admin, and then buyer's agents after that. And then I would plug into coaching and training with people who have done it. But let me back up. I actually think the first answer to all of this is you have to become a very skilled listing agent. I actually think that's the step that a lot of folks attempt to skip, and therefore they can never empower their team to become great skilled agents because they never paid the price to do it. Now, that could be limiting thinking. If someone has unlimited resources and they've already built other great businesses, they could probably bypass that. But I think for most of us, if we don't have unlimited resources, you have to start and pay the price in your scripts and your dialogues and learning the market so that you become an excellent agent so that you can then build excellent agents. And once you hit that point where you're bumping into capacity, then the first thing you could do is leverage out listing coordination and transaction coordination per transaction. So you're not even picking up a salary. And then you could go to, then once you know you can consistently list property and because of that, you're getting free leads that you're not paying for. That's when you can hire your admin and then bring on your buyer's agents. And that sounds simple. It's not simple at all. It's very difficult. However, that is the order that you've got to go through.
But the GPS is already there. Just read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller, right?
That's right.
Perfect. And you know me well. And for the people that don't know, I'm a big believer in real estate and building wealth through real estate, right? So, my brother and I, my business partner, have over $50 million in personal holdings. And we were able to do that because of the real estate business. Take us on your journey. You've now grown your team, right? It's going well. You've moved into the investment side. You kind of touched on that. Tell us what your investment company looks like, and tell us what your future plans are for yourself. And I know you have something even built out for your team.
Well, that's really what I'm working on now, and that's where some of these new relationships are coming in. So it's very let me back up. The day I met Smokey, I walked into his office. I said, I don't think I need to be here. There's 85 agents here. It's not going so great. And I have this uncle who retired from passive income in real estate. And I know these other guys that are investors, but they don't have a real estate license. And I'm thinking about going and jumping on board with them. Why should I stay? And Smokey Garrett drew this circle in the middle of a piece of paper and put RE in it. He said, what I've found is that if you will build a very strong listing-based real estate business, then all of your wealth building opportunities will stem from that. And then he gave me his numbers. So he said, I no longer actively sell real estate, but my team sells 190 homes a year. And then he showed I profit share this much. I own rental properties and I own this. I have a property management company. I have this. And he showed that all those opportunities came from the real estate business. So in some ways, we had rental property, but not at, it wasn't what I was focused on. I had to go through these steps. For me, this was my order. And so through building the real estate team, I basically earned the right to go start building all this. And so we've also been focused on the acquisition of investment properties, because I'm also acting like the market that we're going to be heading into at some point in the future. We don't know when. But if I know how to find the best deals in the Metroplex, then I'll be able to buy now, and I'll be able to buy all the way down on the next downturn. So that's really the primary focus on where we are. And as we're nailing the acquisition side, then I can take down the best properties to hold. So that's big picture. And then I'm working on, and I don't have the answers yet. Peter J. Daniels is going to be a big part of this, but the idea is to have some sort of a business entity that is holding a lot of these assets in, that the agents that helped us build the Chad Smith team can buy shares in, so that they will never have to leave. So we can do it together as a way to pay back and to reward the people that helped us build the team. And so that's what's taken up a lot of my time in terms of just the vision for it, and then figuring out the practical steps for it.
Love it. And you're building out this investment company very similar. And correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm overstepping and you don't want to share, but very similar to how you built the Chad Smith team. Is that correct?
It is. We started prospecting based. To me, they're basically, we've already built 90% of it. And so the business is already built. And so I'm just basically changing the aim of the lead generation to a different prospect. And we already have so many of the skills and the systems, and we're tracking it all and all those things. So it was the natural next step for us. It's not like starting over in a brand new industry. And so they actually complement each other really, really well. And so, yeah, we track it all the same way. We prospect the same way. If you're running a bigger team and you have inbound leads coming in, that's a fierce game. And so I'm surrounded by these amazing agents on my team. And, I don't think we've had a sign call go to voicemail in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So they're answered live. Like, they're just on it. They understand that we're in this together. We're interdependent upon each other, and those leads cost money, and it's their opportunity. And nailing that opportunity creates more opportunities. So the same way we treat every lead like it matters on the Chad Smith team, we're doing the same thing on the investment company.
Love it. And Chad, before we wrap all this up, what do you see the future of real estate? Technology, we have a lot of disruptors going on right now, right? So, some of the doom and gloom type of people out there are thinking that real estate agents are done for. What is your thought of the future of real estate?
Well, $2.9 billion invested into real estate tech is going to create change. Hold on one second. My computer just acted up. There we go. I'm paying attention to it. Here's the way I describe it to my team. Gary Keller is fighting the $1 billion battle, and then we're making our adjustments at our agent level. And I think the board as a whole, a lot of brokerages, your main real estate companies, I think most of them, their numbers are down in terms of units sold for the year, and we're up 87%. And so a lot of it goes back to coaching with the right people that are having conversations with the leaders in the industry, that are making the adjustments. Last year, we made 129,000 prospecting calls on the dialer. As of today, we've made 230,000 prospecting calls through basically mid-year. So we're ramping up our lead generation efforts. We're closing the gap on our response time through our CRM. Last month it sent out 61,000 property alerts. So we have 25,000 people in there. And our goal is to have every single one of them that we have an email address on with the property alert set up on. And from that, they viewed over 20,000 properties and requested 176 showings. So in some ways that can be considered like old technology compared to the new guys that are coming with AI and this and that. However, I can't control that today. I can pay attention to see when it's coming. What I can't control is my activities today. Stay on top of what's happening today. I believe that I'll have enough wisdom that when I can see who a clear winner is going to be in the CRM space or in the search space or this or that I'll be able to make a jump. And that's also why we made the adjustments and are building the investment company, because if you hold enough assets, as you know, even if they did eliminate realtors at some point in the future, it won't matter. So that's my take on it.
Absolutely. And guys, if you're seeing this and watching this, Chad's dropped a lot of great nuggets. Tag someone that would benefit from watching this, or share this out, please. Chad's dropped, basically, if you even listen to that last part, he knows his numbers, not just from year to date sold and how many calls, but how many people are on property alerts. I mean, that's huge. Setting up everyone on a property alert and views is big, and knowing your numbers is everything. So Chad, leaving us now, you had mentioned, you're looking to bring on team members, but they have to be the right fit. How does someone get a hold of you? And what are you looking for in a team member to join the Chad Smith team?
Well, we're hard workers. That goes without saying. If you've watched this whole thing today, you get an idea of who we are and what we believe in, and it's not just about me; it's about the team. But it's also, all these businesses and all these things. I've been a giver since the day I got saved in 2004, and so I don't work to make money. I live to give money. I believe that you give first, that you seek the kingdom of God first, and then all the things that the world chases after just comes upon you. And so the people that are around me the most know that our goal is to see how much of an impact we can make, how many churches we could build, how many missions we could support, how many of the poor we could feed. Those are the types of things that are even bigger than wealth building for our team. And if you identify it with that, we help everyone buy and sell houses. But at the core, that's who we are, and that's, we show up the same 7 days a week. So I'm not one way on Sunday and somebody else on Monday through Friday. This is who I am. This is what we're all about. We're committed to having a spirit of excellence in everything that we do in real estate, to being a cut above, to staying at the forefront of technology, to empowering our team members. And we're not sitting here with our fingers crossed hoping that things are going to happen. We're making adjustments. We're making changes. We're growing. Everyone here is growing personally, and then we're growing as a team to make a bigger and bigger impact. And if you're interested in being part of an environment like that, email us at chadsmith@kw.com and just put in the subject Chad Smith Team Opportunity. So Chad Smith at kw.com, Chad Smith Team Opportunity in the subject line.
Well, Chad, I appreciate you being on. It's a privilege to know you and get to know you even better. And thank you so much for sharing. Unfortunately, Elizabeth, had some technical issues, so normally she has this sign off. But for the next Power Hour, if you're already not a member, you can go to tghtpowerhour.com, or you can look us up on Facebook. Join the group. I believe that we have David Osborne on the next one. So he'll be dropping some great knowledge. I mean, David Osborne's a huge net worth and all because of real estate, and now owns multiple businesses, and also business partner Smokey Garrett. So Chad, thank you so much for sharing. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you have any referrals, or I'm going to be selfless here and say, if there's anything in Tarrant County or in Arlington, around that area, send it to Chad. He'll buy those houses. Anything Dallas and Collin County, we'll take that off Chad's hands. So, Chad, I definitely appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing today.
Thank you, Nick, and tell Elizabeth as well. Thank you for the opportunity.